Now we're live.
You are live.
What's going on, everybody?
Whose mic is muted?
Both yours on the stream.
Do I have to?
No.
Oh, I didn't know if that was like I was putting time out. See, I'm putting time out again.
No, you're not. We could hear you.
You can't. Why does it say mic is muted? Has it always done that?
Yeah. Don't worry about it.
Well, you know what? Because I get nervous really easy.
I know. It's
And
okay.
I only brought one pair of underwear.
It's okay.
Hey.
We could hear you. Everything's fine.
Sometimes
fine.
I just need to be held.
I know. We could hold each other later. Maybe I think we both need that.
A big spooning session.
Yeah, that'd be nice. Ryan 840, what's going on, man?
Ryan. I think Ryan's got an alarm set.
What's up, Sarah?
Hey, guys. He's golden. He's always here.
Yeah, yeah. So is Sarah.
Good staples of the program.
That's right.
How early is too early for me to get my Tuesday tacos?
I honestly think once 10 a.m. hits, that's time to eat
Fair
lunch.
game.
Yeah. 10:30. 10:30 is lunchtime. Unless you wake up at 5 a.m., then 10 o'clock could be your lunchtime.
I think Ernesto needs to be held too.
Yeah, we can all hold each other.
You know where I have been going lately?
Where?
And I know they've had them up in Omaha for a while, and we've got maybe 2 or 3 locations here in town. That is it. How do you pronounce it? Abelardo's. Have you been there yet?
I've never even heard of it.
There's one out by the airport exit on the interstate. One in like the old Dairy Queen that was at 48th and Layton. Maybe there's another, but I know they have them up in Omaha. They're Abelardo's.
I've never heard of it.
Yes. Oh,
I know you like Super Taco.
I do. I had that before we did the Lutheran game a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, it's over on that side of town.
Yep.
Yeah, Super Taco's good. All P1s. You all are P1s.
I don't. Is that like a video game reference?
No, that's a radio term.
Is it?
So yeah, somebody who listens every day, like pretty much a diehard listener, is a P1.
Got it.
Yeah.
Well, because like Xavier called someone a non-playable character the other day, and I think that was referenced to like if you're playing Grand Theft Auto, all those people in the background that are not main characters.
Oh, those are.
He called him a non-play. Look at that guy. He's a non-playable character.
Oh.
It's like, what? Like Xavier will come out with these things. He's a quiet kid. He'll just come out with it. I took him on the trip with me. Had a blast.
Shane, I drive by there all the time, and I haven't ate there yet. But yeah, there's this place next to Hopcat called Grego's, and I think they kind of change up their menu every day.
Grego's?
Yeah, Grego's. NPCs, Adam. Yes, that's what I was trying to think about. They call those NPCs in video games, Theo. Those non-playable characters. Yeah, they call them NPCs. Thank you, Adam.
Well, I tell you what, I shared the stream with my team, so some of the guys are going to be watching and listening when we're kicking off.
Okay,
Already
good.
got one of the players, Doug, great guy. He likes to give me a little crap. He's a Notre Dame fan, but great guy.
Good. I can't wait to hear how your trip to Tampa went. Looking forward to that. And we'll have Robin and Brian on, of course. See what those two yahoos are up to.
Yahoos.
And then, yeah.
NPC, is that non-playable character?
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't know why I couldn't remember that.
But these kids, you have them in their house, and they have these terms.
Stand by.
This is the Morning Hookup on KFOR.
What's going on? Welcome into the Morning Hookup. Happy Tuesday. Good morning. How is everything going? My name is Will Wilson, and I'm joined by Theo Malone today, the fill-in, the guy you know who comes here every time Bill Hooks is gone, and Bill Hooks is gone today.
He's gone.
He is up in Omaha. Or no, he's in Iowa. doing some business stuff. So he'll be back tomorrow. Theo Malone is here with Husker Army. And thank you for coming in.
Absolutely.
I haven't seen you in a while.
That's great. No, I don't feel terrible.
Good.
Back's a little tweaked.
You don't look terrible.
Well, thank you. My quads are burning.
Yeah. Sorry to hear that.
No, that's okay. It's a good burn.
Okay.
It's a good burn.
Good.
Did a lot of running the past 4 days.
Yeah, well, you were down in Tampa for that softball tournament. We'll talk about that in a minute. We will have Robin Washington with HuskerOnline.com coming up in about 15 minutes. After that, Brian Munson will join the show, your usual Tuesday, like we always do. And no, Christian, we have yet to get to the darts segment. I will have to do a little recap of Tavern Darts last night. I would pull some of the post-game interviews I grabbed, but I don't know if it's radio approved.
It would have to be. It would just be a bunch of bleeps.
Yeah, so we're not going to be getting to that, but we will talk about it. Maybe we'll have Christian call in because he is the 2024 winter dart champion. So maybe to get to that. So that's what's coming up on the show. Theo, let's talk about you. You just got back from Florida. You hopped out of your car, and you looked like the guy.
The first thing you said was a little skinnier.
You did. I could tell you. I thought you've lost some weight, and I was impressed by that. But you look like the guy on Survivor.
I don't know if that's good or not. Was there a little bit of hitch to my giddy up this morning?
Well, no, you're just so tan.
It was. You know what? Even though if it doesn't get hot, I don't know. The ultraviolet down there is just a little bit different. Of course, I took Xavier with me on the trip. He had fun, and he sat in the stands. I think it was maybe Saturday morning when the sun finally came out down there, and we get somewhere to go to lunch afterwards, and half of his face is red, and it didn't get over 55. And it was kind of funny. I think that we happened to be playing a team from Florida that morning, 55 degrees. They show up and they're out there in ski masks and scarves and moon boots and stuff because that's chilly for them. That's a winter weather advisory. But for us, it was another game in the park. But it was great. Sun finally, when we got down there, it was a little bit chilly. But by the time we left on Sunday, it was back up to normal temperatures.
Good. Well, what did you think of Tampa? I've been to Tampa once. I got family down there. I remember seeing shoes everywhere in the streets when you'd be driving around. There'd always be shoes,
like a random shoe, or the pair of shoes, or just random shoes.
Random shoes just laying around.
I didn't see random shoes, but I will tell you this: the traffic, like Tampa, and within an hour around Tampa, straight up sucks.
Really?
Oh yes, because like a couple months ago we had gone down to Phoenix to play, and even though Phoenix is much bigger than Tampa, I think they've got it figured out road-wise because traffic actually moves. But you're on the interstate and you're going like 35, and it's terrible. And you have to account for that because the B&B that we had rented was a good 45 minutes from the field, and you had to take that into account. But all in all, great time. It would have been nice for it to be a little warmer when we got down there. Still better than what it was in Nebraska.
And you said you guys almost won the dang thing.
We very well could have. We ended up going 3-3. And we played a team from California, and they were chilly. They were kind of wimps about it. A team from Florida did play a team from Ontario, Canada as well.
Wow.
And so that didn't bother them, as well as a team from Minnesota, Colorado, and a team from Pennsylvania we played. So they weren't chilly. The team from Pennsylvania, we played them the first game. And I'm sorry, let me back up. We went down there for the Tournament of Champions. And so these are teams that have won tournaments from all over the country and all over the world, as you can tell from the Canada team. So this was the best of the best. And we draw this team from Pennsylvania, our first game, and it's our first round robin game. And we absolutely laid it on them, beat them 33-19. And that team the team from Pennsylvania ended up coming back and winning the whole thing.
Wow. Dang.
So we were very capable. You know how the sport goes. Sometimes your bats get cold. And it doesn't happen. But the B&B was very interesting. These people down there, they have garages, but they're for decoration. Like maybe 1 out of 10 houses actually use their garage to park their cars in. The B&B we're in, they had turned the garage into like this movie theater. It was kind of neat. A squirrel had gotten into the attic and had a nest over where Xavier was staying. And so that squirrel was up at 5:30 a.m. every morning, which was kind of interesting.
God.
And then one morning, I know you guys had probably talked about this while I was out of town. our carbon monoxide detector goes off in the B&B.
Shut up.
No, kid you not. Now, mind you, I get news while I'm down there, so I fully aware what happened last week.
Of course.
And we another gentleman and I, we go out because it was beeping. And sometimes, when you have a low battery or something like that, and because it's not hardwired in, so we just take the battery out and throw it on the couch because it's 6 a.m. We don't want to go back to bed. And then I get on and I Google, well, how do you know if a carbon monoxide has a low battery or if it's an alert? And it says, well, if it's an alert, it's 4 beeps in a row. But if it's a low battery, it's just 1 beep. These were 4 beeps.
So what'd you do?
Oh, we called 911.
Shut up.
No, and this is where it gets interesting. The 911 dispatcher wants me to go through like this list of 20 questions. And I said, ma'am, I'll answer any questions you have. Just let me know. Do I need to get everyone out of the house? Oh, we'll get to that. I want to ask you a few questions first. He said, this is a very, very touchy subject right now. Carbon monoxide. Do I need to get the people out of the house or not? Well, I got a few other things first. And it got to the point where those who know me know I can elevate quickly. And I did. And I accused the 911 dispatcher of not being an active listener, and I hung up. Needless to say, about 5 minutes later, we did have all the rescue units pouring into the neighborhood, and they did their test, no carbon monoxide. So we're gonna blame the lack of sleep that morning for maybe not playing as well. But I tell you what, it was a great experience. I know from the outside you laugh when you say 50 and over, people down there playing softball. No one wants to see geriatrics doing that, but everybody who's 50 and over down there is in great shape. It's very competitive. It was an excellent time, and it helps me feel young too. It's just my recovery time is usually about 2 to 3 days instead of just 1 day back when I was in my 20s.
Can't believe that carbon monoxide stuff is
and
4 beeps. Well, then what are we doing here?
I would tell you what, had that not happened to Calvin last week, I wouldn't have thought anything of it.
Right.
Okay. And we ended up being okay, but given that type of stuff of not smelling it and all that stuff, you're in a strange house that you don't know what's going on. And so everybody get out of the house. And It was just it was a little soon for what had happened, but fun experience. I was able to take Xavier, got to see Tampa Bay Stadium, got to see the Yankees training
facility. Bay, the Buccaneers.
What is that? Raymond James.
I thought you were talking about the baseball
and
stadium. I didn't think it was there.
On the northwest corner of the Buccaneers Stadium, they've got this huge picture of Levante David.
Really?
So I got him a picture of that.
Cool.
Right across the street is spring training where the Yankees are.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm not a Yankees fan, but I understand the nostalgic value of getting to see that.
Mm-hmm.
He had never been to the ocean, so we got to see that as well. And
is that the ocean?
Well, I mean, the Gulf leads into the ocean, and you got the bay and stuff like that. So that was really neat. Didn't see any crocodiles. He was kind of upset about that, but I'm okay with it. I didn't really need to see that up close.
You don't need to see that stuff. Well, I'm glad he had a good time. Glad he didn't.
And and we represented well because I think there was another Nebraska team down there that did okay, but you have a bunch of guys from mostly from Omaha, a couple in Lincoln area that went down there and represented your state very, very well with the best of the best across the country. So hats off to my heroes teammates on definitely a great weekend and good tournament.
And I'm glad it gave you the self-confidence.
Was I lacking it?
Well, it sounds like you got some self-confidence out of the thing, so I'm happy for you. So glad you're back. Glad you're here today and filling in today. Last night at Tavern was the Dart Championship. I had one game and we lost bad. We lost 0-3, so few. We got bounced pretty quick. And my punishment was then I had to work happy hours. So then I immediately got behind the bar and started working. But Christian, who's on the stream right now, him and his partner Brian, they won it all last night. They won the Tavern Dart Championship over Nick and Caden. Congrats to them. I don't know how they did it because Christian, I don't know how to put this lightly. Let's just say he had a bit. He had a few before that championship game. And I'm more impressed how you won that thing in that.
He primed well.
He did. He primed very well. So congrats to those two. Again, I had some fun content I was maybe going to play on the show. I had some post-game interviews with the two and even interviewed Boss Man.
Is Christian one of the gentlemen that worked down there?
Yeah, he works down there.
I believe I've met him.
Yeah, Christian.
Okay.
Christian.
And yes, Christian, that was 33-19. We covered spread.
33-19. Wow. Good for you guys.
And sorry, Ernesto, I should have reached out, but yes, that 475 interchange is horrible.
Yeah, I think I remember hopping on that when I was down there, going down
I'd
to
have been
Clearwater.
better off walking.
You didn't go down to Clearwater or anything while you were there?
We had a couple teammates that went down there
Okay.
in between games. A few of the guys brought their wives down, which was really neat. My wife couldn't get the time off from work, and Xavier had never been to Florida and brought him.
Good. That's awesome. Well, let's take a break. Okay, let's get our first interview of the day. Robin Washut with HuskerOnline.com. He's going to join the show when we come back.
You're listening to the Morning Hookup with Bill Hooks and Will Wilson. More coming up.
What do you say?
Plant City does sound familiar, Ernesto. We were down there. It was like Plant City, Winter Haven. I'd even let me look on the map and see where that was that we played. But it's just mind-boggling that how slow traffic had moved down there.
I believe it. You have any seafood?
We tried, and even Xavier said that he would be up for that. A lot of the places were very, very busy. Yeah, it was crazy. Yeah, Ernesto, we were really close to like Lakeland Heights. What was the name of that park that we were at?
Do. You can drive. See, this basketball team is quite in trouble, aren't they?
They're struggling. It was Lois Harp Park, Ernesto. Lois Harp Park is where we played. Yeah, and that schedule's not getting any easier either. I'm a little nervous.
Like you should be.
Like NIT. Maybe even not make that nervous.
No, you should be way more nervous. We may not make the Big Ten tournament.
Right. That's weird that we have 18 teams.
Yeah.
Is that right? But we take 15? Why wouldn't you take 16 to make it even?
Is it 18?
Well, didn't they say like the bottom 3 don't make it?
Yeah.
We have 8. Don't we have 18 teams in the Big Ten? Correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah. Because Penn State was 11. We were 12.
Yeah, there is 18.
Rutgers, you had Rutgers, Maryland were 14, and then we added the 2 Californias, and then Washington and Oregon. We have 18. You would think that like 2 not making it would give you 16, which is, as anyone who's ever seen a bracket before, is a very even number, an easy number to do.
Well, there's got to be.
Unless you're giving the 1 seed a bye.
That's what I mean. If you stick to the same format, top 4 get a bye, bottom 4 play in.
But if you do 16, you don't have to do any of that funky bracketing. You can just square it up and everyone wins 4 games. Well, that's not fair that the top seeded teams have to win 4 games in a row. They deserve to have a day off. Well, if they're still a top 4 seed, they're probably still going to get in the tournament, aren't they?
Yes. I don't know who's calling, but we'll have to get you later.
Do you have Robin on?
Not yet.
Okay. $30 seconds.
Yep.
All right.
Feels right.
Welcome back into the morning hookup. I'm Will Wilson, joined by Thue Malone. Bill Hooks is gone today. He'll be back tomorrow. Every Tuesday, we bring on Robin Washit with HuskerOnline.com. Robin, what's going on, man?
Nothing. What's Bill doing?
Bill,
flying his private helicopter somewhere.
something like
Probably.
that. Something like he said he was in Des Moines looking at some stuff.
Probably somewhere to
No,
build
boy.
a ranch.
Is he moving to Iowa? He's just fed up with everything. He's just going to become an Iowa fan now. Is that what's going on?
That would be. I mean, I wouldn't put it past him.
Can't
but-
beat him, join him, right?
Yeah. God. Anything with money. Let's move on. Okay, so Robin, we were just talking during the break that this Thue was like, okay, I'm feeling a little nervous about this basketball team. I'm kind of NIT nervous, and I said, maybe you should be a little more nervous. Maybe we should be Big Ten tournament nervous.
Yeah. At this point, they've lost 6 in a row, and you got Illinois coming to town. They're playing as well as any team in the conference, and could win the Big Ten outright if they get hot. So that puts a 7-game losing streak very much into the picture. And as with every loss, it's not just the fan optimism or optimism around the program. What you worry about is just what's going to happen internally. Because then they're going to go on the road for 2 straight West Coast Big Ten games. And you're looking, at this thing getting, completely out of hand if they don't figure out a way to right the ship and get themselves back on track to where they were less than a month ago. But here we are. Things can turn quickly on you, and just seems like a year ago Nebraska was up 15 in the second half at Iowa, and since that point, it's been one thing after another where you've seen some reoccurring issues, but it's also been seemingly new things each game that's burned Nebraska on both ends of the floor. And so the real concern is that, it's not a deal like, if they fix this, then, they'll get everything figured out. It's like, well, they have to fix this and they have to do this better. And you need more out of this guy. And it was just kind of this laundry list of little things that are plaguing Nebraska right now. And with every loss, it's all just kind of compounding on top of each other to where, what would seem like little fixes are now becoming big issues when you deal with confidence and morale and just the overall vibe within that locker room. So good news is that there's still ample opportunity ahead of them. The bad news is that with that opportunity comes a very difficult schedule, and time. They have time, but they don't have time because they got to get this thing figured out quickly before the bottom officially drops out on them.
Robin, wanted to ask you a little bit because you said you had mentioned reoccurring issues, and I look at where that team is at today compared to even maybe just a couple months ago, where the defense seemed like it was just smothering. Is it an issue of where we've now been scouted as far as when we would double down on the post, and teams are now spreading that out and getting the skip passes in, or what is the main difference defensively that from now as to what we saw several games back to where it looks totally different?
Well, the caliber of opponent has something to do with that too. Defending South Dakota and Bethune-Cookman is a little easier than Wisconsin up in Madison, or going to Purdue or whatever it may be. So that's part of it. And then then you'd say, well, what about the Creighton game? Well, the Creighton game, they defended at their peak potential. You saw the effort that is necessary for them to be that type of defensive team for a full 40 minutes, and it won them the game. And so the issue that I'm kind of having now with what they're doing defensively is that you could say it's not a schematic issue, it's an effort issue. But if you're not getting that effort, does what you're doing schematically still work? And I've asked Fred several times about the defense, particularly what they're doing, on the perimeter and with the amount of, baseline trapping and doubling of the post that they do and how much that opens up 3-point line. And he just continues to insist that, it's more of a player issue and effort issue. And if guys are rotating with intent and closing out aggressively and contesting shots, then they're going to have, the type of defense that we saw earlier in the season. But the issue is they're not having that, and they're giving up way too many open shots, and they're making things way too comfortable for their opponents, just because of the wide open looks they're getting, and that's why they're getting burned as much as they are from 3-point range. So, I guess if you ask Fred, he's going to say it's an effort thing, but my issue is that if you're running something that is so predicated on elite effort and you're not getting that effort, I think you got to try something else to make maybe things a little easier on your guys.
Robin, was Braxton Mia, was he hurt on Sunday?
Unclear. It wasn't listed on the injury report, availability report. Fred never said anything about him in his pregame show or after the game. He was there, just didn't play. So it could have just been a matchup thing, but I think maybe a lot of it was just how good shooters Wisconsin's bigs are. They got 7-footers, but they don't exactly like just post up on the block. They make you go out and defend on the perimeter, and that's obviously not Braxton's strong suit. So I think maybe they went for a little bit more athleticism with Berke and Andrew at the 5, but also a little more offense from those guys to be able to counter what Wisconsin's bigs can do to you on that end of the floor. So we'll get official word on that tomorrow when Fred talks before the Illinois game. But I don't believe it was anything injury related, because if it was, he probably would have had to put it on the availability report, and he probably would have said something either before or after the game about it.
Well, I do like the fact that Andrew got his chance. Obviously, during all of this, he's been playing pretty decent basketball. But I'm one of them guys. I like when he comes in off the bench, because obviously you have to have some sort of scoring and offensive get go from that unit that comes in off the bench. With that being said, though, too, it to me it looks like there is just so much pressure being put on Bryce. I know that it's supposed to be him and Gary leading this team, and I'll call it how it is. From what I've seen, Gary has to miss 4 or 5 3-pointers in a row before he starts playing Gary's game that makes him effective. But to me, we don't have that third. Absolutely know that they are a go-to person, because the defense for the other team might come in and just blanket Connor, or whatever it is. And to me, it seems like the pressure mounts on Bryce that team is only going to go whether he's on or not. What are you seeing as far as the offensive output on these last few games?
Yeah, I mean, they need Bryce to be better, but he also needs some help, like you said. And with Juwan, he's getting wide open looks, but he's getting them for a reason, and he's missing them. And he's been a bit better of a shooter at home, but I guess last time we talked to Fred before the Wisconsin game, I asked him, I was like, kind of what's your stance on Juwan's green light from 3? I mean, he was like, 3 of 21 or something like that going into that game. He didn't do any better at Wisconsin. I believe he was 1 of 5. So, I mean, his percentages have been just dismal over this losing streak. And they said they continue to believe in Juwan as a shooter, especially when he's shooting, within rhythm and has an open look. They want him taking those shots, regardless of how much he struggled with his shooting. But for me, it's kind of like what you said, where he's going to that shot right away. And again, it's because the defense is baiting him into taking those shots. They're leaving him wide open, because they're going to take their chances on him having another cold night. And so as a result, he's taking those shots rather than playing to his strength, which is getting to the rim and, getting 2 feet under him and going up strong. When he does that, he's really, really good. Case in point being that last game against USC when he had 27 points. He did pretty much every bit of it inside the arc and in the paint and at the rim. And so that's when Juwan Gary is at his best. And I think the issue with that is Nebraska's 3-point shooting as a whole has been so bad that teams are packing the paint. And so for Bryce, for Juwan, for Morgan, for Barricade, or whoever it may be, scoring at the rim has gotten a lot harder because Nebraska's been shooting it so poorly. And they got to knock down those shots. So it's like, what do? Do you let your guys continue to fire it up from three, even when they're not making it, in hopes of loosening up the defense? Or do you try to play into a crowd and go after a packed paint defensively and force things at the rim? It's kind of a lose-lose situation right now, just because they're not getting the consistent 3-point shooting, especially comparative to what their opponents are doing on the other end.
Robin, it's weird. You're just over 60 in the net rankings, which oddly enough, I mean, you're not completely out of, a decent position. But talk about this stretch coming up. Illinois at home, but I oddly don't mind the 4 games after that. Oregon, I think, is overrated. Washington is what they are. And you get 2 decent teams at home after that. Talk about this stretch coming up.
Well, Nebraska hasn't won a Big Ten road game yet this season. So to expect them to sweep through Oregon and Washington, traveling halfway across the country and playing 2 games in 3 days, I don't know. Like, that's these coast to coast road trips that teams have to do are tough. And you see notable drops in performance. I mean, just when Purdue went out to Washington and nearly lost, and that was when Purdue was playing as well as any team in college basketball. So I mean, like, that travel is a real thing, and you see it the other way when these West Coast teams come east, they really struggle just because of the fatigue, mental and physical, that comes with that much travel. So for Nebraska, if they're riding a 7-game losing streak, to expect them to go on the road and suddenly figure it out, especially against an Oregon team that was top 25 caliber team, that's a lot to ask. So that's but once you get past that, this is where, like, starting, I guess, Super Bowl Sunday with Ohio State, although Ohio State's balling right now too, that was when the Big Ten schedule came out, you were like, all right, once they get to this point, if their head's still above water, you've got 5 of your next 7, or your final 7 games of the regular season are at home. And like, that was set up that, as long as they could just get through January and be in the conversation going into February, the schedule is really going to set up for them to make a bit of a run. So that is kind of where I see it right now. Is like, the time is now. They got to figure it out, whether it's stunning Illinois at home or going on the road and finding a way to get hot on a difficult West Coast trip. Like, that's kind of the window for them to have that final 7-game stretch really be the opportunity that we thought that it potentially could be. But right now it's just hard to, like you said, there's a path. I mean, they're not out of it. And again, there's a lot of quad 1 opportunity left on the schedule for them to quickly jump right back into the thick of things. But the optimism of that happening is it's never been lower this season. Right. And until they show on the court that they're capable of playing to that level and doing what they need to do in order to remain in the tournament conversation, it's just hard to put a lot of stock into that.
Let's hope they figure it out. Robin Wash at HuskerOnline.com. Robin, we appreciate the time as always, man, and have fun on Thursday.
All right, man. Talk to you guys later.
All right, thanks, Robin. You can follow him on Twitter at Robin Wash It. Let's take a break. We'll bring on our second interview, a guy also with HuskerOnline.com, Brian Munson. He talks Husker recruiting. We'll talk to him about his Buffaloes, his sad Buffalo Bills. We'll talk to him about that after the break.
You're listening to the Morning Hookup with Bill Hooks and Will Wilson. More coming up.
Have you ever seen a divided airplane? So you can pay for internet service.
Oh, I thought you were talking about. Never mind. Keep going.
But after we left Atlanta and we're flying back, that the Chiefs Bills game is on, and the the airline, they provide some free TV and some free movies you can watch and stuff. And the game was on. You could watch that for free. So people had their tablets out and everything like that. And I mean, yes, it's at night. They weren't too loud, but you could hear the cheers for when both teams would do well. I mean, it was a divided airplane.
That's awesome. I've never watched a game live on an airplane before.
But you know what I have done? I have paid for internet service, and I've watched the morning hookup on an airplane because I think I messaged into you guys on the way down there.
Yeah, you did.
The first ever viewer from 39,000 feet.
That's
the morning
right.
hookup.
We think.
Well, that at least chimed in.
Yeah, right.
So here we have Chiefs and Eagles again, huh?
Yep.
Groundhog's Day.
What do you think of your Cowboys hire?
I can't. Not one way or the other. I suppose. I'm glad it's not Dion.
Wow.
I mean, because we already have. We are one oversized bear on an undersized bicycle away from that being a full-blown three-ring circus down there,
Man,
as it is.
I'm happy to hear you admit it.
But I've told you before that I have been a Cowboys fan since I was a little kid.
I know.
And it's hard to switch teams because, hey, your owner's a doofus and won't relinquish general manager rights to somebody who has a little bit better idea of what they're doing. But a lot like the Raiders, I have said this, that it's going to be strange decision after strange decision probably until he passes away.
That's
just like Al Davis over there.
I hate to say it, but you're not going anywhere as long as that guy is pulling strings.
And I'll be the first to tell you too that the blueprint in the NFL these days, quit overpaying for these quarterbacks. There's a handful of them that deserve it, but just get a quarterback on a rookie deal, pay everyone else the money. Paying Dak what they paid him is ridiculous. Dak's contract will ruin the Cowboys.
Yeah, but you say you can't keep overpaying for quarterbacks. You don't have a choice. You really
get a quarterback on a rookie deal and pay everyone else.
Welcome back into the morning hookup. Happy Tuesday. Every Tuesday, we bring on Brian Munson with HuskerOnline.com, and he joins the show right now. Brian, what's going on, man? How are you?
Hey, guys. What's up?
Good morning.
Well, we're doing better than you. I know Sunday was probably a tough one for you, and it was a good game, but another the Chiefs run into you again.
Well, I think as soon as the concussion happened in the first half, I think I would, and no adjustments being made after that. You just couldn't go man-to-man with Elam. He couldn't even match up well against Schuster. In my opinion, Schuster's maybe a third wide receiver. I don't think he can make a lot of teams' rosters. I'll be honest with you. And that's where I kind of got Elam then looking at that going, well, we don't match up well there. We're going to have problems the rest of the night. So, in the end, I see all the tweets. I see all the people with the officiating thing. Look, bad calls are part of the game. I mean, maybe you just need a kid that goes through baseball to really get upset at an umpire or two in your lifetime, and you'll just understand that just sometimes bad calls, they just happen. And, hopefully sometime they'll turn for you and they'll go the other way. But I think really the concussion, and I think the other thing too, and I said this to my wife last night, I never said the word epinesa all night long. And I just didn't feel like he had enough to do with the game. So there's a lot of players that just went away as kind of the game went on. And you can't have that. So they got a major rebuild that they need to have happen basically on that back end of their defense, in my opinion. And then they probably need something a little bit more dynamic opposite Russo, and a couple other things that need to be shored up on the offensive side of the football. What are you going to do about Cooper? He's on a 1-year deal, etc. So I think they'll be fine. I think they found a really nice running game to kind of complement everything with Allen. And I think Allen's going to be in for a hefty payday here pretty quickly with the Bills too.
Brian, what are your feelings about the chasing points? I know that there's all the analytics, and they've done all the the crunched all the numbers about at what point in time in the game in the first quarter compared to in the fourth quarter of when you're supposed to do it or not. What was your take on the some of the decisions as far as the point chasing that may or may not have changed how some of those drives went later on?
Hated it. I love the fact you brought this up, because it was absolutely the first point I made to my wife as we walked away from the living room and we're standing there in the kitchen at the end of the night, and I just go, God, I go, how many times did they choose to go for two? And I was like, it was at least twice. There might have been a third. But at least then, it puts different pressure, I think, on the Chiefs at certain other times if you have a couple extra points on the board. So I really hated the fact they took points off the board to go for two on the offsides call. I didn't like that at all. So I think that's kind of one of those root kind of things, right? You never take points off the board. So and PATs aren't what PATs used to be either. Those are way longer kicks. A lot more things can happen, and the Chiefs have abilities to block those. Ask the Broncos, So I think I didn't like it. I didn't like those analytics and the way they did things down the stretch at all. I really would have gone ahead and just kicked it and said, mathematically, if it doesn't work out with where I'm at and I've got an onside kick or I have to go for two later, then that's fine. But I'm not going to start this thing. What was the name of the Oregon coach Helfrich that came to Lincoln and went for two every single time? And I think if he would have kicked PATs, he would have won the game. It was the same deal. Like, just get into your regular flow. And if you have to do something that's atypical later, then fine. But don't do atypical the entire game.
Well, unfortunately, it is going to be the Chiefs and Eagles in the Super Bowl. What do you think of the game?
Yeah, I watched Saquon, and boy, that guy is special. The Eagles, they've got this great dynamic back now that they can kind of rely on. Hurts definitely is not himself. He's definitely banged up. AJ Brown is kind of peaking right now, which is good news for them. KC is KC though, and I'm interested to see how things are going to match up there. It's going to, in my opinion, a lower scoring than the AFC Championship game. Something 20s to the 20s. I kind of want to see Philly, take this one down, because I'd like to see Saquon get his championship. But I think KC is really going to be tough, when it comes to giving them a couple of weeks getting ready to prepare for a game like that. They always show that they kind of get shot out of a cannon because they have a great couple of weeks to prepare.
All right, Brian. Well, I'm going to switch your directions here. Talk a little bit of Huskers. Now that our national championship game is over, we are now maybe not a lot as many as other teams, but we have seen a few portal entries from both Ohio State and both Notre Dame. One that might pique Nebraska fans' interest is an offensive lineman, an interior offensive lineman by the name of Rocco Spindler, I believe is how you say that. And I want to say he's on campus today and is seriously considering Nebraska. Can you tell us a little bit about that situation?
Yeah, Rocco, interior offensive lineman, so maybe a little unexpected, right? Because I think Nebraska had brought in a couple guys, maybe as an interior offensive lineman, maybe they weren't great fits, so they couldn't get them or whatever. But Rocco comes in with a heck of a resume. Mainly, he's a guard. he doesn't play center. I think it's primarily been right guard and some left guard, but I think it's a situation, obviously, that and I think one of the things that makes me want to say this, and I kind of said it in chat just a little bit ago. There's something to be said about the fact that Nebraska hadn't hosted a portal guy in 2 weeks, and then all of a sudden Rocco comes up, and Nebraska sees an opportunity to get better, and I think that kind of mindset needs to be applauded, because I think Nebraska could have sat back and said, we're 20 over. We're 20 plus over on the cap already to get down to 105. We got to get there by like summertime or Maytime or whatever it is. And if we add another guy, it's tit for tat. You know, there's a thing we got to bring in. There's a guy that's got to go. It adds additional pressure to our number already. So there is obviously, you know, something that kind of goes along with it from a business perspective. But if he makes you better, if he makes the room better, if he makes the unit better, I think it's obviously one of those things that you have to go ahead and take a look at. So when you put him on like a Lutovsky, and I think Lutovsky, you know, he's just been kind of bit by the injury bug, you know, here and there. And I think that that's a situation, obviously, that he's going to be better the healthier that he is. So it's going to be interesting to kind of see that happen. But I think those two guys as the guards next year, you know, possibly with Jenkins too, that could be really a good situation for Nebraska, obviously, as they're getting a big interior offensive lineman upgrade. And I'm hearing this, guys, and I'm just going to pass it along here. I think things, you know, look pretty good for Nebraska to maybe potentially add Rocco to the roster. So good situation brewing in Lincoln today for that.
That's great news, Brian. And it seems like there's some more guys coming to town this weekend. Is that true?
There are. There's 22 players coming in for an elite junior day, or 20-ish, I guess I should say. I haven't divulged the entire list. Steve Wiltfong just put a preview out, and it's got most of the names in it. But I'm going to keep evaluating information as I kind of get it. I'll do a formal kind of visitor preview on Friday. I'll preview it a little bit more like what Steve did tomorrow morning in 3 and Out. I think that this is an interesting group that they're kind of bringing in. There's a couple local guys, and Jace Reynolds is coming in, and Erickson's coming in, the 2027 offensive tackle. So those are two, obviously, you know, local guys they want to try to get into their classes as quickly as possible. But I think people are going to be pleasantly surprised with the number and the talent that they're bringing in at the offensive tackle position for the 2026 group. I think we would all agree there needs to be, you know, I mean, Jackson Cantwell is really that number one guy. Jackson won't be there, but they're bringing in 4 offensive tackles, if I'm remembering off the top of my head, really quickly. They're bringing in 4 of them, and they're all solid. They're incredibly solid. So it's going to be very interesting to see how things kind of get going for Nebraska this weekend. And, you know, there's, you know, Dayton Raiola, you know, needs to be kind of called out with him too. Already part of the class, coming in though this weekend to kind of help be that Pied Piper, and going to kind of help, you know, put the class together and give people a chance to meet the quarterback, you know, put both Dayton and Dylan in a room and let them kind of let them work the room a little bit and get people kind of feeling good about things right now in Nebraska. So going to be a very good weekend for Nebraska. 20 plus guys going to be there on Saturday.
Brian, I find myself in just kind of a weird predicament. You know, if we were having this conversation, say 2 years ago, and you were giving me a list of 22 guys who were coming in for junior day, I would be sitting here behind this microphone, drooling like Pavlov's dog. And I don't know. It's different now that, yes, I understand that that high school recruiting still is important, but it's almost like every year is its own entity with this portal that and this is just me, and tell me how wrong I am, that I'm like, okay, yeah, let's go get some good guys, but there's more of me that's not putting so much emphasis on that high school recruiting anymore, because kids don't stick around, or maybe these classes are going to be smaller than what they used to, because we're going to leave some of those scholarships available to see what we need for, you know, an immediate fix after the season. Are these high school recruiting classes just going to be that much smaller across the board for most of these Power 4 schools?
So I feel a little pressure here to go ahead and assemble my Skinner box really quick and ring the bell so you can salivate. So I'm dropping my
There
collegiate
you go.
psychology retended memories of that anyway. But I don't disagree with you. I think that there is a lot to be said about the lack of loyalty, the current landscape of college football, but I think that you can build a compelling argument here about how much retention played a role in Ohio State winning a national championship. They had to keep that group together in 2025, basically, to get to where they were at. They had to add a couple critical pieces like a quarterback. But I mean, at the same time, I mean, they had a big core of dudes that had options on the table, whether it was go pro, come back, maybe transfer someplace, make a big payday, or, put in here and get a chance to win a national championship. So I think the dust is still kind of settling around, the guys that are looking for a payday, the guys that are looking for a home. And then I think where everything kind of crosses over and the optimum situation kind of presents itself to where you can have both. And Ohio State clearly spent the money. They're in a deficit. They won a national championship, however. So I think the classes here are important. I think that these visits are going to be very, very different, though, however. I can go through the list of 20 some odd visitors in my head, and there's really not a preferred walk-on in the group. These are all very, very choice, no bubble guys. These are very choice guys. I think the days of, the larger cattle call weekends, where we had, where I'd be talking to you guys about the visitors for a game was like 60 or 70 or 80 players. I think those days are done.
Mm-hmm.
I think those days are absolutely done. This is being refined, like right in front of our eyes. And unfortunately, I think these trips are becoming more and more business trips. They are important because, in a month or two, these guys are going to be taking official visits, right? And they're going to start setting those up, or at least they'll be setting them up, maybe not taking them yet. So I think there's very important things that come of these weekends. I do think the classes will get a little bit smaller because you want to have that ability, that flexibility to kind of do things through the portal. But I think there's also roster management becomes a very important thing for these coaches to kind of remember. You got to be effective with the 105, and you got to give people a time to develop. But the patience button, definitely is not as deep as what it once was. I think they're looking for players to be a little bit more effective and productive earlier on in their careers.
Brian, before we let you go, man, let us know what you're working on.
Well, I got 3 and Out going for tomorrow. Obviously, we'll do a visitor preview for part of that. I think the other part, maybe this just kind of bleeds all together, is, Kansas has effectively, and so does Iowa, effectively kind of locked down several players off the border states, which I think Nebraska is going to have to, do some things about. There's sure like guys like Case and Thomas that will be in this weekend, obviously, that Nebraska is still in very good situation with, but Iowa still kind of lurks there since he's an Iowa guy. I think there's some other takeaways to be said about the offers, in particular the offers this last week. 2027 offensive tackle offers were through the roof. Really couldn't believe the number of 2027 OTs that were offered this last week. So I think I'll probably touch on that a little bit. And then I got a story on Rex Weatherman, who actually saw Matt Rule and Donovan Raiola at his school yesterday, and he'll be in town this weekend. So I'll probably try to go ahead and just put that in there as part of a framed up interview as part of one of the sections too, just so I don't have to keep trying to find another place to put it in there before I have to talk to him on Saturday anyway.
Well, Brian, we appreciate your time every Tuesday, man. Enjoy the week, and we'll talk to you next week.
All right, guys. Be good.
All right. Thanks, Brian.
Thanks, Brian. You can follow him on Twitter at Brian Munson. Let's see. At Brian Munson _ where you can find him. Let's keep it here. All right. There's a few things I want to get to. We got about 5 minutes left in the show. The Chiefs Eagles have unveiled their uniforms for the Super Bowl. And apparently this article says that one of them has a favor, as in So the Eagles are actually responsible for this choice as they were this year's designated home team for the Super Bowl. That honor rotates between the AFC and NFC, which I didn't know that.
I guess I didn't either.
So-
I thought it. Well, do the stadiums rotate AFC, NFC? Because I thought that the designated home team was always with the conference of whose stadium it is.
Huh.
Like if they played down at Jerry World, it's an NFC team, so that would, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
I don't know if those rotate or not. But anyway, no, I didn't know that it.
So they're the home team, and they get to choose which uniforms to wear. The Eagles will don their signature midnight green jerseys, guaranteeing a true rematch of the uniform matchup featured in last year's Super Bowl. So each teams are going to be wearing their same jerseys. What does this mean for the actual game? Well, uniforms aren't likely to determine on-field results, but if you're of a superstitious person, the teams wearing white away jerseys are a whopping 16-4 in the last 20 Super Bowls.
Huh.
Do you like that? Does that push, your way? Does that grab you?
I don't know. Because see, I mean, you're talking to a Cowboys fans who their home jerseys are the white ones.
Well, how about this? Funny enough, the only two clubs to hoist the Lombardi Trophy while wearing home colors over the last decade are the Chiefs and the Eagles. When the Chiefs beat the 49ers and when Philly beat the Patriots in 2017. Pretty interesting.
I am superstitious, but I think it should be a good matchup again. Remember when we had like the Warriors and the Cavaliers for like 4 years in a row?
Yeah. And that was actually fun. That was good basketball.
So let's let this one ride.
Yeah.
Let's see if we can get a couple of different teams in next year.
Do you have a wager you like for tonight for the daily wager?
You sprung that on me. Well, why don't you do yours first,
okay.
and I'll see what we got going on
you
here.
Go ahead and get yours. I've actually hit 2 in a row, which is very surprising. I have been the worst gambler in the world the last month. But I'm going to go to SEC basketball. Kentucky is at Tennessee.
Yep. Okay.
And Kentucky's 10-point underdogs. Kentucky's been up and down. They're kind of inconsistent on the road. I just think that's too many points. I'll take Kentucky plus 10 tonight.
Okay. No, that's a good one. I'm going to stay with you on college basketball.
All right.
And St. John's ranked 15th. Got a little Big East here.
Mm-hmm.
I like that stuff. They are 4.5-point favorites going on the road to Georgetown. And I'm going to take the Hoyas to win this one at home this evening.
You're going to take money line.
Yes.
Wow. Do you have odds on that?
4.5. St. John's is favored.
To win, though. If you're going to take Georgetown to win, you might as well just take the money line because you're going to get a lot more value.
Okay.
Okay. So let's see what that is. You're going to get plus 160. All right.
Okay.
You're going to take plus 160 on that. You just might as well take if you think they're going to win, you might as well just take the money line.
Okay.
You're going to make more money on that. So, Theo, I appreciate you coming in.
Well, I appreciate you having me.
I really appreciate all the shows that you and I've done over the last 5 years.
It has been. I think that's when we started back. And for those of you that are avid listeners, Mr. Wilson, he as you commonly do over on the FM side, that you don't always use necessarily your full real name, or it's kind of clever. And starting off as Willie J.
That's right.
And I think my daughter Mallory still calls you Willie J.
Oh yeah.
Starting off with Willie J.
A lot of people
starting over there and getting in and stuff like that. It's always a good time. So when I get in to do these shows, whether I'm in a lot of pain or not, or whether you might be hungover or not, we always seem to make that hour or 2 hours how it used to be. Always seems to work, and
we do.
It flows. There's a flow to it. Flow.
I'll never forget. It's you're doing this for free when you come in here. So
right.
I really appreciate it, man.
Well, I appreciate you always playing my 80s
of course
rejoins for me too.
I'll always remember it, man. Hey, you enjoy your day.
You as well.
Okay. We'll see you soon. Bill, we'll be back tomorrow. We'll have Henry T. Buchanan on the show. See how long that interview takes. All right. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a good Tuesday. See you, Theo.
See ya.